This is kind of cool. Well, no stand, which means I get to act like a rock star and move around. My name's Peter Manette, but I think nearly everybody here has already met me at one point or another. I've been a member of the Central Committee here very close to 15 years, during which time I've worn a lot of hats. Right now, I'm the fundraising chair. And I'm here to tell you basically about three things that are going on right now. The first is what we're doing with respect to all of the guests that Hospitality House currently serves. The second is the Adopt or Sponsor a Child for the Holidays, which is an effort that the Democrats are also doing. We do those first two together. The third has to do with people who are planning to run for the Central Committee. Typically, this is not an actual race in the sense that you don't have to campaign and get yard signs and go give speeches or anything like that. But basically, we are actually all technically elected officials. Many of us are appointed in lieu of election, meaning that there aren't enough candidates to bother putting on the ballot, because if there's 6 openings and only 4 people get their signatures in, they're all simply appointed in lieu of election. So that's what I'm going to start on right now. Who here is from Supervisor District number 2, which is Ed Schofield? Okay. Rhonda needs signatures. So if you're in District 2 and you haven't signed her signatures yet, please get a hold of her and sign those. District 2 is Ed Schofield's district. Okay, is there anybody else here tonight that's interested in getting signatures so they can be officially appointed or elected to the Central Committee? Okay, so who here is from District 3, which is Grass Valley? Okay, you already, most of you know Karen Tricomi. If you haven't signed her, it's called a nominating petition, but if you haven't signed for her yet, please make sure to check in with her as you're leaving. Yeah, the fourth thing you're going to hear about tonight is from an actual member of the staff at Hospitality House to fill us in on what's going on, and she's going to introduce her colleagues. So Faith and Jeff are over there. I'll introduce them in a minute. Going back to what I told you I would tell you about. For the entire period of time that I've been involved with the Central Committee, the Nevada County Democrats, in collaboration with the staff at Hospitality House, have arranged for a Christmas or Hanukkah package for every guest at Hospitality House. So everyone that's currently living in the homeless shelter there or is otherwise receiving direct support from them, we've made it our business to make sure they get some kind of holiday package. And typically we talk to staff ahead of time to see what people need, and then we put together packets. So today, for example, I ordered 100 Christmas cards / holiday cards. I called Nevada County Transportation, the Nevada County Stage, and arranged to pick up 400 bus tickets from them in a couple of weeks. And the biggest part of this effort is trying to raise enough to get gift cards in addition to the bus passes for all 100 people that Hospitality House is serving directly or indirectly. That's what I would love you to go to the Nevada County Democrats website You can find the link to donate to this effort. You can also take a picture of a QR code that's sitting right on that square table right at the end of this hall. Those are not direct donations to Hospitality House. If you write a check to Hospitality House, it goes to Hospitality House, it supports their staff, it pays for food for their kitchen, it pays the mortgage and the insurance and all that stuff. What we're doing is raising money through the Central Committee to provide gift packets for each of the guests at Hospitality House. And that's what that QR code is about. We've raised $3,000 the last couple of years. I'd love to see us raise $5,000, which comes out to roughly $50 per person as a combination of bus passes and a gift card. So your support and the involvement of your friends in supporting this effort would be greatly appreciated. That brings me to the second part of our effort, which began roughly 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember exactly when. My wife is insisting that it was 8 years ago. At any rate, we also started getting information about each of the children that are receiving services from Hospitality House. So their families are getting services, whether they're in transitional housing or they're in temporary housing, whatever their circumstances are, you can imagine that those families are somewhat financially challenged. So what we've done is we've gotten a list with kids by family, and we find sponsors or adopters, whatever you want to call it, to take one of those children's names and their wish list, go shop for them, package those up, drop them off either directly with me or my wife, Erin. She's the one with the light bulbs. That's because she always has the bright ideas. So, and then we take all of the bundles of packages over to the offices of Hospitality House. We'll be doing that on the 21st, so we want everything by the 19th. Monetarily, we didn't make a decision on how much money we can put into each gift package, so a week would be ideal. In other words, there's some urgency to our fundraising efforts. Does anybody have any questions about any of those things? Are you talking about a check or are you talking about Presents for Kids? Presents for Kids, sign up ahead of time with either Erin or I. We're actually pretty close to having the number of sponsors we need. But if you're interested, check with us as you're leaving tonight. We'll put your name down. Those will be either dropped off directly at our house or at the office. And we'll probably make an arrangement. My wife is waving no. And I already told you that she has the bright ideas. So if she's saying no, yes, yes, we can be in touch about that. We've actually got a couple of weeks. Yes. Absolutely. It's still great if you've got their name on each package. You know, if you've, whatever it is, you've got, I don't know, an action figure and you've got something else, so you have to do 2 or 3 different packages. It's great to have their name on each package just because there's going to be, you know, probably something like 100 gifts. And if a bag tips over and another bag tips over, now you're trying to figure out where things go. And it, no, the way it works is the Nevada County Democrats have an account with an organization called Act Blue. Separately, we have a bank account, and you can write a check. If you write a check, put Hospitality House in the memo sheet, but make the check out to Nevada County Democrats. All the money that is designated for hospitality goes into a theoretical pot, gets divided by 100, and that money is spent on gift packets for the guests at Hospitality House. So it's kind of two different efforts. One is we make sure that somebody is making sure that a particular child is going to get some presents for the holidays. The other is a fundraising effort so that we can go out, we meaning the Nevada County Democrats, can go out and arrange gift cards. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you can find the link on the Democratic website, the Nevada County Democrats website. Again, there's a QR code sitting right on top of the table at the end of this hall. And you can talk to me afterwards if you have any more questions. Margie? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Yeah, we have a holiday card. Inside of that holiday card and envelope, there'll be 4 bus passes and a gift card. From either typically this year, it's going to be Grocery Outlet or Target, and we'll get a mix of the two. And that allows us to kind of provide maximum impact. I looked at getting Visa cards. They want between $3 and $9 for an activation fee. When you're giving somebody a $25 gift card and they take out $3, it's kind of like, really? You're getting 12% like instantaneously? That's ridiculous. It's just not fair. So, all right, I'd like to introduce the development manager at Hospitality House, Faith Trump. No relation. Sorry about that. I've already been asked 3 times.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having Joe and I here. As Peter said, my name is Faith Trump, no relation. And I am the development manager at Hospitality House just up the street here. So what we're thinking about doing is I'll talk a little bit about our history, our mission and vision, which you all might be aware of and familiar with, some programs that we've had in the past, and then a look towards the future, what we're looking at in terms of programs, in terms of permanent housing solutions, which is our main goal. And Joe is our program director, our strategic director, so he can speak a little bit more to how we get this funding, how we're using the funding streams that are available to us, and how we're best using those funds. So I'm going to start by reading my notes here. And I will probably repeat a lot of stuff about Hospitality House that you've already heard, so bear with me. I'm 2 months into the job, so I'm still practicing a little bit. But at Hospitality House, we started, it was a group of concerned residents in Nevada County in 2005. It was just complete grassroots movement. They started to see the homeless population surge, and they were concerned. So we started as a nomadic shelter. We partnered with different organizations of faith, and we transported people who needed shelter to different organizations every single night. And we've come a long way since then. So you might know about Utah's Place right at the end of Sutton Way. That is our emergency shelter, and it's really the only game in town in Nevada County. So when we talk about emergency shelters in Placer County, they have the Gathering Inn. They have 2 different shelters. They have Salvation Armies. We pretty much just have Utah's Place here. And so they're big shoes to fill, and we're happy to fill them. So I'm bringing up my speech notes. Pardon me. So a little bit about our homeless population here in Nevada County is Nevada County is pretty tiny. We're only 120,000 people about there, according to the U.S. Census of 2022. And about 12% of our population is at or below the poverty line. And what that looks like for our unsheltered population is a lot of camping. We have a uniquely forested area. We're not like other metropolitan areas in California. We all know that homelessness is an issue throughout California. But we're unique in that we have campers galore because of the forested area that we live in, the forested terrain. And so that's part of I don't want to say the issue, but really it's part of the issue with outreach. So part of what we do at Hospitality House is street outreach. But really what street outreach looks like is not only Sutton Way and the streets that we know and love here in Nevada County, but also woods outreach and trying to get to people who have lived off the grid, lived camping, on either private or public property for years and years, and helping them to engage with services so that we can take the next steps to permanent housing, which, as I said, is our goal. Our goal isn't to get people off the streets into the shelter and forget about them. Our goal is to help people take steps towards permanent housing, whether it's permanent housing that we provide or from partners that we work with. That's the end goal for us. So we really look for innovative solutions, and that's kind of what we're in now. We're in flux. So from 2005 to now, massive change, like I said. We became an actual shelter. We had an actual shelter that we call Utah's Place in 2013. So it's been about 10 years since that's opened up. Really exciting news is that is soon to be our building, which means that Hospitality House now has a home of their own. And that's very, very exciting for us. We've come a very long way. So a little bit about what our services look like is we get grants from HUD, we get federal grants, we get state grants, and we get county grants. We're also privately funded to a degree. But in order for us to outreach the way we want to provide the services that we want to, and to provide the holistic care, or to connect people to holistic care that we know that they need to really solve the homeless crisis, we have to be inventive about the funding that we get, and inventive about the solutions that we provide as far as permanent housing goes, and helping people stay housed. I think we all know that homelessness is it's a multifaceted issue. It's a hydra. It's not just mental health. It's not just cost of living. It's not just a lack of subsidized housing. It's all of these things and a million more. It's early childhood trauma. It's, the list goes on, and I think Joe might be a little bit more qualified to talk about some of those things. But the reason why I bring those up is that at Hospitality House, we perform best practices when it comes to all of those issues. And what that looks like is in our shelters having case managers that help people connect to primary care, that help people connect to specialists if they have ongoing health issues, that have them in the emergency room again and again, which causes huge stress on our medical system. It's an issue. And housing navigation, employment preparation, access to behavioral health that they might not, or behavioral health care services they might not otherwise have. So that's what we do in Utah's Place with our case managers, and it's also what we do and bring to people with our outreach team. We have a couple things in the works right now that are really exciting. I'm going to start them off. I'm going to talk about them and introduce these, and I'm going to hand it over to Joe. But you may or may not have heard about the total overhaul of Medi-Cal. So we are completely overhauling our Medi-Cal system, and we're making it more holistic. California is, and it goes by the name of CalAIM. I'm forgetting what AIM stands for, forgive me. But basically it's, Advanced Innovation of Medi-Cal. Thank you, Joe. But it's really exciting. It's so cool because where Medi-Cal was trying to help people, and it was a little bit of like, kind of just like spaghetti on a plate, you know, there were so many different directions for people to go. CalAIM is a more holistic and like a view of care as whole person care. So CalAIM allows for agencies like ours, agencies like Nevada County, to bill for services such as everything I just talked about. All of those case management services, they were kind of falling by the wayside. And CalAIM allows us to bill for that so that we can better help these people from start to finish in what we call our continuum of care. So from the outreach, that first engagement with somebody who's out in the woods, out on the street, what have you, to our temporary shelter, to temporary housing, permanent housing, and staying in permanent housing. Why were these people unhoused in the first place? It's addressing all those problems all the way through and giving us the power and other agencies the power to really support these people in that path and help them in a permanent way, not in a temporary way. So I'm really excited about CalAIM, as you can tell. I actually worked in Placer County as an ECM case manager, and ECM is part of the CalAIM system. It stands for Enhanced Care Management, and it's specifically geared towards people who are either at risk of homelessness or homeless. And it allows case managers to engage with these people, refer them to whatever services they need, and continue working with them on a real on different levels, not just on the PCP level, not just on the housing level, not just on the employment level, and to do that in a way that it's longevitous. So I've seen it on both sides. I think that the work that we're able to do now with CalAIM and the work that we're able to do with the ECM team that has not only started in Nevada County, but that we're hopefully starting our own as well. I just think that we have a really bright future in terms of how many people we can help and how many people we can help permanently. So I think that's all I've got. My face is burning up. We have a question. Oh, by the way, yeah, sorry, before you talk, you are able to raise your hands and ask questions anytime you want. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Joe he's the expert.
And perfect segue. Thank you so much. So for those for those of you that have heard me speak before, I apologize if I'm rerunning everything. Usually I start these things by saying I don't know what to say, so thank you for the jumping off point there. I want to thank you guys for all of your generosity and for having us here tonight and taking the time in the evening to sit here and listen to us talk about the work that we love so much. To answer your question, there is it's very recent thing that came down from the state. In September of 2022, there was an initiative, I think it was AB 179, don't quote me on that was handed down through the CARES Act. What this basically said was that money was going to be dispersed throughout the state to different counties to help folks with that suffer from severe and persistent mental illness to get off the street. We've realized that that's one of the main barriers that we see out on the streets, right? Hospitals were closed down years ago, no place to go, all of that stuff, right? So just recently, it was just approved by the Board of Supervisors. I did a presentation there in the very beginning of November. Nevada County was awarded $3.6 million for something called Behavioral Health Bridges to Housing. What that means is it allows us to add 30 beds of capacity to our shelter system. Now, we have to get creative with that, right? $3.6 million, you hear that big number. It's like, oh, we're going to solve homelessness. Unfortunately, it takes staff, it takes administrative costs, it takes a way to stand up how we do that. So the way we're doing it in Nevada County is they have partnered with Hospitality House, as they've done time and time again, one of our best partners, to help run this. So we're partnering with their outreach team, their enhanced care management team, along with our homeless outreach medical engagement team, and all of Hospitality House for that matter, to create 30 new beds of shelter over the next 3, hopefully to 5 years. This is where we have to be fiscally responsible, right? So the way we do that is we were mandated in the first 90 days, get people off the street. So how do we do that? We utilize motels. As you all know, or probably know, hotels and motels are very expensive. So in the short term, good. We rent out 30 or 20 or 30 hotel rooms, hopefully double people up, and provide wraparound case management with that. What that means is all of our case managers are there daily, weekly. We have programs, policies, and procedures in place to navigate people from the street into temporary housing into permanent housing. That's, as Faith had talked about a little bit, our continuum of care. So right now, we were just awarded the contract, as I said, in early November. Policies are written. We've already got 16 people, I think, off the street. Now the long-term solution, and there's possibly more money behind this, so hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'll talk a little bit more about funding and the challenges we face around that and the challenges that have been over the years. The next step is master lease housing. That means we need landlords that are willing to have 4 or 5 bedroom houses, right? We rent those houses out. We put in a live-in caretaker, so you have somebody on site all the time. You have wraparound case management from the case managers that are trained to do this for years and years. And then now you have more of a home setting. Motel rooms are great. Getting people out of crisis, getting people off the street, where they have a shower, where they can go to the bathroom, where they can microwave some food. It's a huge step up from sleeping in the woods or on the street. However, does that really build community? Does that build home? Not necessarily. So this is why we're going to try to master lease as many houses as we can. Here's my kind of just throw it out there. If you guys know any landlords that might be interested. We've already had one gentleman that stepped forward. He's got a 4-bedroom place with a granny unit on site. We're in negotiations with him. Total godsend. We're hoping that, we can make this deal work. That's 8 people off the street right there. If we have multiple houses like that, now not only are you have folks off the street in motel rooms, but you build life skills. You learn budgeting. You repair credit. All of these things that happen during these periods of homelessness, we try to keep it as brief as possible, and we try to make it as less traumatic as possible. Are we always successful? No. How are we successful? From donors, from contracts, from, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, in my case, unfortunately, these things don't come for free. We need to be able to put in these resources for people to actually be. Yes, there's a housing shortage. Yes, rents are through the roof. Yes, there's not enough subsidized housing. I'm not here to talk about problems. We all know the problems. We all know the issues with substance use disorder. We know about mental health. We know about early childhood trauma, all of those things. What are we doing to fix it? Because we need to stay solution-based. And the way we stay solution-based is, first, we have to fund programs that we either already have or plan on standing up. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I started as a case manager in 2018 with this organization. We were a high barrier, meaning you had to be sober to come in to the shelter. And we had a street outreach program, 1 street outreach worker, yours truly, and no transportation, no housing, no anything. Over the years, through county contracts, through grants, through BSCC, through peace officer standards training, through HCD, through the initiatives like BHBH. And I'm more than happy to answer questions and go into as much detail as you want. I can bore you guys to death with the money side of it. That's been my expertise for the last few years. One of the major things that happened with the street outreach program was the homeless management engagement team. That was a partnership between behavioral health, Turning Point, which is another nonprofit that's kind of all over California, but particularly in Nevada County, and Hospitality House. That put street outreach workers with a registered nurse out in the field to go out and engage people, to find people, to pull them out of the woods. Everybody in here, I guarantee, is scared of fire, yes? We're worried about folks out in the woods burning things down. So what do? We work directly with law enforcement to pull people out of the woods and try to create a place for them to be. Our shelter is wonderful. It's 69 beds at capacity. Our last point in time count, for those of you who know what point in time count is, it's where once a year we go out and basically take a census of every person we can find. Last year it was 500. We serve 65. We have a permanent supportive housing unit where we manage 28 units. We have another permanent supportive housing unit where we can serve up to about 20 people. It fluctuates. So there's 100, you know, we're 20% of the way there. And we also know that Hospitality House served almost 800 unique individuals last year. So is that point in time count, that snapshot in time, it's a 1 day count, and then at the end of January? Okay, so there's definitely a need there, correct? So that's what we try to do. We try to create housing. As I mentioned, we started out as a high barrier shelter. Over the years, we got a county contract. We were able to kind of fix our conditional use permit to where we could provide 11 low barrier beds. That means come as you are, under the influence, no problem. You don't have to breathalyze, you don't have to drug test. It's all behavior based. Now, again, legislation was passed in 2020, it was last year, I think near September 22, I believe, saying that sobriety cannot be a barrier to shelter, that everything was housing first. That means you pull people off the street, you give them a place to stay, and then you wrap services around them. So we've gone completely low barrier. Challenges? Absolutely. Higher acuity? Absolutely. Do we have trained and really good personnel with big hearts that work with folks? Absolutely. So we have this now where we've dropped our barriers. We've brought more people in off the street. We have things like Brunswick Commons up on Old Tunnel Road, where we were able to house over 28 individuals. We opened Sierra Guest Home, which started as interim housing. That was initially a 1-year contract from the county. That evaporated. They didn't have any more money. There was no more money to be had. So what did we do? Did we just, pull down our shingle and say, oh, we're done, you guys go back out to this? No, we got creative. We started vouchering the rooms, having people come in with housing choice vouchers, formerly known as Section 8. We brought in private pay people for the folks that had Social Security and maybe had a little bit of money, they could afford some rent, maybe not $1,500, $2,000 a month, but could afford some basics. I can't afford it either. I see you in the back, Aaron. But they could afford, some of their Social Security or some of their income. And then we also started something that Faith had touched on called CalAIM. This is a game changer, and there's 2 reasons why this is a game changer. One, grants are drying up across the state, across the country. Hospitality House used to be almost completely funded by something called ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant. This is something that came from HUD to our COC, our Continuum of Care, which I am currently the chair of. That funding went from 250, 300,000 down to 50, down to 40, down to big fat goose egg. Now, you've also heard of some funding. You may have heard of some funding. It's called HAP. And I have so many acronyms floating through my head, it's alphabet soup, so I apologize. I'm used to talking in acronyms. It's Homeless and Housing Assistance Program. See, it came to me. So there's been, the 4th round is coming out right now. There's been 3 rounds previous, and it was kind of small. This round's a little more robust. It's about $1.4 million for our county. Our Continuum of Care and Placer County's Continuum of Care is under one umbrella called the Homeless Resource Councils of the Sierra, which is the 501c3 that oversees both of these COCs. The reason there's 2 COCs is historically we were connected. Well, Placer County is bigger than us. There's more people. They have more homeless people. So who do you think got the short end of the stick? Yeah, good old Nevada County. So a few years ago, we decided to do what we called the little D, the little divorce. We separated so that the funding could be more equally distributed, and we have a 501c3 overseeing it, which I am the vice president of. So what has come down with this HAP funding is it's been awarded to our county. It sounds like a lot, $1.4 million, excuse me. However, running Utah's Place, running just the shelter, not street outreach, not our transportation programs, which I'll speak about, not any of the other wonderful things we do, not our housing programs, that costs over $1 million to run. So our chunk of the pie this go around is gonna be around half of that, which means how do we keep a shelter open? How do we keep programs running? Again, do we give up? No. I mean, there's there's only so much the community can do, and we appreciate each and every one of you and everything you guys do to help us, to support our programming. We really, really do. The other thing to think about is that California is an expensive place to live. Believe it or not, social services workers do not get in this for the money. You know, but we do want to be able to create a fair and this work is hard. It takes an education. It takes a heart to do it. So we want to be able to, you know, at least take care of our folks, the people that are doing the work. We want to pay them a fair wage. Not trying to, you know, buy them Ferraris and everything like that, but at least a place where they aren't one paycheck away from being homeless. So our organization does its best to take care of our employees as well as the people they serve, because if we can't take care of them, they're not going to have the bandwidth. They're not going to have they're going to be stressed out. How are they going to take care of the people that need the most help? So that being said, we've been creative. So yes, there is some funding out there. So what do? We go after grants. We are aggressively going after grants all the time. As I mentioned, they're drying up. During COVID, there was a huge influx. It was the state turned on the water faucet, turned on the fire hose. There was millions of dollars dumped into COCs, and when I say COC, counties across California and probably across the nation. Well, what that did is it blew up a lot of organizations. You start standing up all this program because we're in emergency panic mode, right? Well, what happens when you turn that faucet off? What happens to sustainability? How do you be financially and fiscally responsible how do you keep these jobs? How do you keep these programs, these wonderful programs that help people going? This is where CalAIM comes in. This is the state solution. It's been I will say, just from a programmatic standpoint, because I'm very much a program guy, even though I'm an admin, my heart's in program. It's been a challenge. This is a new program that was ready, shoot, aim from Jump Street. You know, it was okay. We're building the ship as we're sailing it. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to Medi-Cal bill for homeless services. Now, this sounds like a phenomenal idea, and it really is, because what's been identified is that homelessness, much like mental health disorders, much like substance use disorders, it's a health crisis. It's it is a housing crisis, yes, but it's a medical crisis. It's a health crisis. The highest utilizers are the folks going to the emergency room at $1,500 a day for a bed, and only being able to be billed once a month, and some folks are going in multiple times a month, right? So hospitals are losing money. Taxes go up. All of these things happen. So what nonprofits and counties have been tasked with is, okay, the managed care plans, DHCS, overseeing all of this, has gone to the managed care plans and said, we're going to stand up some money behind this under Gavin Newsom, under the state, saying we are going to allow service providers to Medi-Cal bill for services that historically you couldn't. My background is in substance use disorder. I was a counselor for a couple of years. I ran transitional houses. We could Medi-Cal bill. And it was pretty lucrative for the for-profits. I didn't see any of the money, but I'm sure it was profitable for somebody. But we were helping people, which is all that really mattered. Mental health, that's always been Medi-Cal billable. Medical treatment, always Medi-Cal billable. Well, what about the highest utilizers? Who's costing the taxpayers? Who's costing everybody in this room the most money? It's the high utilizers, and a lot of those folks tend to be underhoused or homeless, or close to being homeless. So we're now allowed to bill. It's not as robust as one might hope, but it does stand up sustainability. Is it more work? Yes. Is it more documentation? Yes. Does it mean that, you know, case managers have to spend a little bit more time on the bureaucratic side of things? Yes. Social services workers, whether you believe it or not, didn't get into this line of work to document and to be bureaucrats. Like, everyone just wants to go out there and help people, right? Like, we just want to get people off the street, give them a bottle of water, get them into the shelter, give them a hot meal, give them a bed, and then work with them and remove all of these barriers just to get people to where they maybe want to address mental health disorders. They want to address their substance use. They want to address whatever is their major barrier to either being or staying housed. So CalAIM has allowed for this. It's been, like I said, it's been a challenge. There's two sides of this. There's community supports, which is what Hospitality House does. It's housing navigation, housing tenancy, recuperative care. Recuperative care is actually a game changer for us because it allows us to get people out of the hospital that have nowhere to go and provide a bed for them and actually be able to bill for that bed. Now, I mentioned $1,500 a night for a hospital bed. Reduce that by 90-something%. I mean, it's It's smarter, yeah. I mean, it's smarter for the hospitals, it's smarter for the state, it's smarter for everybody's pocketbook that we're not charging people through the nose. And at the same time, it allows us to keep our doors open, our lights on, our case managers paid, our clients served. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We are a nonprofit. For anybody that's ever been in a nonprofit, it means at the end of the year, our goal budgetly is to zero out. Nobody's getting rich from this. We're here to do the work, keep everybody employed, provide work, provide jobs for Nevada County. And there's another, it's a whole nother thing, right? We do on-the-job training. We have peer support. We have folks with previous lived experience. You're looking at somebody with lived experience. I've been homeless myself, which got me into this field, which was why I have a heart for it. Other financial things I can talk about a little bit. I'm happy if anybody has a question, feel free to shoot your hand up because I will ramble on all night. Go right there. Thank you. I was just going to say code compliance, yes? Absolutely. Is it Suzanne? Absolutely. I can speak to that a little bit. I've worked in the shelter. Oh, go ahead. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can speak, like as I mentioned, I can speak a little bit to that. I've worked with a couple of property owners. I'm working with one right now, as a matter of fact, who's done something very similar. Probably not as on the up and up as what you're talking about, but I have a very close relationship with Code. Meet with them on a bi-weekly basis. I'm going out with Code to a piece of property that actually to front load the investment, as we like to say, brought him out to this property where he has probably 20 trailers out there. He owns hundreds of acres. He's got power to it. He's got septic to it, all of that good stuff. So we brought Code out there and said, here's what we're doing. Take a look around. Tell us what we need to do. And the nice thing, as much as they probably get a bad rap, I've worked with their directors. I've worked with all of their workers. They are not, though they're enforcement, that's not their role to enforce. They're there to work with people. And they've worked with me and they've worked with our clients over the years. I can't say enough nice things about them. Yes, that's a bigger conversation for sure, because now we start getting into politics and we start getting into all of that fun stuff, all of the red tape, all of the changing code. Pull it out. Yeah. Absolutely. We can definitely talk offline. I'll give you my contact before I leave here today. Hopefully I have some cards out. I don't know if you brought any of mine. And just as a disclaimer, my lovely assistant here, not my assistant, my colleague, sprung this on me at the last minute. So I'm sorry I'm not, I had to throw her under the bus. So yes, that was something else I wanted to talk about, was our engagement with law enforcement and with code compliance and with the Sheriff's Department, GVPD. We've had licensed clinical social workers embedded with GVPD. That was a BSCC grant I was talking about earlier. It was so successful. It was a 3-year grant. It was so successful. Guess what? We didn't qualify anymore. We didn't qualify for round 2 of the funding. Too low of a homicide rate, too low of a crime rate in Nevada County. So the larger entities were eligible. We weren't even eligible. We couldn't even apply. So that's part of the funding. These are part of the funding things the challenges that we face, right? Preceding that, we had another grant which was very unique. It was through Peace Officer Standards Training. It was an innovation grant that basically Hospitality House, in collaboration with NCSO, Nevada County Sheriff's Department, GVPD and NCPD, we wrote a curriculum on de-escalation, particularly towards homeless individuals, people experiencing homelessness, to reduce the amount of officer-involved shootings. It's been so successful, we haven't had to roll it out again. We got to train over, me personally and some of my colleagues, over 100 law enforcement officers across the state. Again, that was something that was years ago, but this is what preceded what the program I was just talking about, which was the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Plan. It was highly successful. It helped build relationships with law enforcement, because typically, I don't know if you guys know this, but social work and law enforcement don't necessarily always marry together. I mean, it's hard to make purple, you know, when you got red and blue. But we did it. We've done it in this. Our community is so unique. This is what Hospitality House does. It's not just about serving the people. It's not just about having protection, not just about making everybody's lives in this room a little bit easier, a little bit, less stressful, especially during the holidays. I mean, it's got to be hard. It's hard for me. And I see it every day, driving down the street and seeing somebody freezing on the side of the road, and sometimes it's easy to just blame them for it, or just be like, oh, why don't you get a job? Why, of course you're using drugs. Why do you expect to happen? Like, I hear the left and the right. I hear everything. I hear people that want to save everybody and give them all homes and open up all of their property. Thank you, sir. And I hear the other side of it, where let's dig a ditch and let's line them all up. And I hear both sides of it. What Hospitality House is here to do is hold the radical middle. We are here to hear both sides and to bring those sides together and figure out an equitable and be solution based. How are we ever going to solve this problem? We had a meeting. It was a board retreat, and we were talking about mission statements, and we were going to solve homelessness. We're going to solve homelessness. And part of me was like, can we just be a little realistic? Can we mitigate it? Can we make it shorter? Can we move towards it? Because do we have the resources to solve it? I don't have the resources to solve it at my level. I can mitigate for it. We can mitigate for it. We can help the folks that are the most vulnerable, the most challenged. And this was opened up today about talking about families, which is probably one of the most heartbreaking parts of my job, is that there are women with children out there, and there are women that do get pregnant while they're homeless. And that's really hard for a lot of people to be like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing out there? Well, there's harm reduction, there's education, there's a lot of things that go around that. And there are folks, and what I'm seeing, and I'm from my heart, I'm seeing the biggest population influxes are aging population that are first-time homeless because they're being priced out of their homes, and families. And I'm not talking about families with intergenerational trauma. They do exist, believe you me, that were raised in housing insecure and food insecure and all that stuff, that they've been in substance use since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. But there's also folks that are just, they can't afford to live. They can't afford to, even working a job or 2 full-time jobs, and raising 2 kids. People that raise families, bless your hearts. I don't have any children. I have, which is interesting, I have no children, but I have 6 grandchildren. You guys can do the math on that one. But it's difficult, right? I mean, it's taking care of we're talking about, people, Faith had talked about the poverty line, folks that are just above that, and folks that, how families how you provide a Christmas, how you provide security and all of that. And what you guys are doing, it really touches me. Every year, it seems like somebody steps up for the families. thank you guys. Thank everybody in this room for being the people to do that this year. We need all the help we can get. We are not asking for handouts here. We are actively every day going out, hustling, trying to find creative ways to raise money. That's what we do. And we realize that there's, only so much that each individual in this community can do for us. Just like the folks we serve, we just want to be empowered, not enabled. That's what we do for our people. We empower them, we don't enable them. Right here. So interesting enough, so we did have a program, it was called Breaking Barriers to Employment, more alphabet soup, BBTEI, where we were job training folks so that they could learn soft skills and some culinary skills out of our kitchen from our chef, so that they could go out and get jobs themselves and be able to contribute back. Unfortunately, this program was stood up during COVID, where restaurants were shut down and employment, and our counterparts with our Alliance for Workforce Development, they were shut down, so where we couldn't go back and forth with that. What we do encourage is peer support. This is folks with lived experience, people either homeless or previously homeless, to go to work. I mentioned the homeless outreach medical engagement team earlier. We had a peer support on there. We are the master lease housing that we're standing up through the Behavioral Health Bridges housing program. We plan on employing people with lived experience to be there and interact with folks because they've been there, right? They know the challenges they face. Maybe they're on the other side of it. Maybe they're no longer as knee deep in it as they used to be. But these are opportunities to learn social work, and maybe they get a taste for it and want to go back to school. As far as there's one other program we have, we have so many other programs, so I apologize. We have a grant through Area 4 for Aging. This is a Americans with Disability Act funding that we've gotten through Area 4 to fund our transportation drivers. We have two what we call homeless access transport vans. One of them is a lift van for people, so it's ADA compliant. There is opportunity. We have a policy and procedure in place where if people, even though it's a free service, they can contribute to that ride. So what we've asked, and believe it or not, I've had clients and I've had parents of clients come to me and say, how can I give back? You deserve extra money. Even if it's a client, donate to Hospitality House. Donate back into what served you. So those are the major things. Right, most of the folks we serve are chronically homeless, are a long way from being able to give back. But we have had people come back and work for us, or previous clients. We've have had people come back and volunteer in our kitchens. We had an employee not that long ago. She's moved on to an actually even better job than we were able to give her. But she was a long time client of mine. She had a family. She came back. She became a case manager. It was amazing. So employment opportunities, Aaron, and then yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. So what I would say is reach out to your elected officials. I would say write letters. There are some elections coming up. I actually get these questions a lot, though we do interact with our county counterparts, and there is a level of politics to the work we do. We try to stay apolitical in a lot of realms. However, when it comes to advocacy, we do have those conversations. We've had, I don't know how many programs I've written and how many ideas we've come up with, and all of these, everything you guys are saying are wonderful things. We have to have it has to go through the elected officials. It has to, one of the issues, that's another interesting thing about Nevada County is there's a lot of things that hinder us because of political will. There just are. I mean, you have to have buy-in. You have to have a lot of like-minded people getting together. They have to be heard in public comment. They have to write and talk to their district supervisor. You know, that's where it really comes from. There's only so much that nonprofits and service providers can do. I mean, we don't have lobbyists. We don't have, you know, people going up and, you know, and trying to change everybody's mind. I speak my truth. We speak our truth. We talk to the Board of Suits. We give our presentations. We do our best. All excellent suggestions, however. I forget who was first. Oh, yeah, two. We're working on it. I know at least two of them, and we're very close. It's that trust and rapport kind of aspect of it. You know, there's one of our major people that you probably know has recently moved, but there's two probably really popular, at least Chief Foss very popular with, that we're working on getting into that BHBH program that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, we are through that program. We are targeting not only the folks that need it the most and getting referrals from court, like care court, which isn't stood up yet, but like diversion, mental health diversion, SED court. But we're also targeting locations. Nevada City, we've got our usual people that we've known for years, right? That's on our list. I know, right? Every time I go up there. But our folks in the basin on Sutton Way, our folks that, you know, our few folks up in Tahoe, Truckee, and North San Juan. I mean, we're trying to be, again, it's a limited resource, but believe me, a lot of thought and strategery, as I like to say, has gone into it. So Sierra Roots did get a contract this year. We do provide transportation to and from there. We don't necessarily man it. However, last year during Snowmageddon 2, when you know, Sierra Roots, you know, their volunteers were pushed to their very limits. I mean, it was a finite amount of funding. I did work directly with the county, and Hospitality House worked directly with the county to move that from the Vets Hall in Nevada City to the Vets Hall in Grass Valley. It was actually manned by county employees, and it was an eye-opening experience for a lot of them, I'll tell you that. They came back after that and said, what? I mean, unless you've done it, it's, you know, it's a challenge. I believe you and then you. Sorry, I didn't mean you and you. I just don't know your names. I'm sorry. Always needing volunteers.
We never regained our volunteer community, and so what we see now is a little bit. It's just an internal change where staff is doing everything the volunteers could do, especially with those cook groups. They can be really fun, you know, and so yeah, we still. Churches, other faith communities, and organizations do come in. A lot of them only do once a month or maybe twice a month, which is understandable. Life is busy, you know. But that just to put a little bee in your bonnet, we could definitely use some volunteers. Whether it's prepping once a week, 5 times a week, coming in once a month as a group. Another question, I believe.
Yes, I get that question more often than you would think. I will say this, that I have not personally seen that. Our point in time count, as I referenced earlier, actually dropped this year from the year previous. I've heard tale of that. I've never seen a charter bus drop anybody off. I've also heard that our services are so great that people come here just to get our services. I'm sorry, Nevada County's got a lot less money than Placer County, Sacramento County, the Bay Area. We have though we might have less people, less homeless individuals, per capita, we are right at the very top of the state, which is a sad state of affairs, obviously. What I do see an influx of, just for total transparency, is festival season. During grow season, we'll see folks come up here. I said this at the Seropolis Club, I believe, so if I'm recycling my jokes, I apologize. But folks come up here, to seek their gold, whether it be yellow or green. So yeah, I mean, during World Fest, during State Fair, folks come up here, they want to have a good time. Maybe they get a DUI or their car gets impounded. But are we talking hundreds and hundreds of people? No. Another thing that Hospitality House does is reunite people with their families. This year, I wish I would have brought a stat on that. I'm going to have to provide it for you next time. But dozens and dozens of bus tickets for people that have come out here to connect with somebody and just, got ghosted, or, it didn't work out for them and they're stranded here. We are helping a young woman move back to Arizona to reunite with her family this week. We do it at Amtrak. We've actually bought plane tickets before. That's a little more rare because it's more expensive, obviously. But Greyhound tickets. And it's not Greyhound therapy, because I've heard that. I've seen it where people in the Midwest are shipping people to New York and LA. Nevada County, it's a beautiful, beautiful community, but I don't think we're world famous. I don't know, maybe. The governor knows we're here. He came up here in 2020, which was very nice, and visited Hospitality House. So that was lovely. But no, it's kind of that, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I can speak to the fact that I don't believe it to be true. I have no evidence to prove it at all. You had a question, ma'am, and then you, sir. Absolutely. Are you saying you're wrong? Just kidding. It's traumatic. Yeah. Well, it's kind of having that impression of any one race, any one sex, any one person. I think, and everybody in this room knows this, I'm not preaching up here, but when I do get confronted with things like that, we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with human beings. There's two types of people in the world. There's people with issues, and there's dead people. You put 4 adults of their normal neuroses in a house, something is going. Watch your reality shows. It's a mean old world out there, and it can be difficult. But yeah, losing your house is probably one of the most. Next to losing a loved one, is probably one of the biggest traumatic experiences a person could probably go through. I know it was for me. Oh, I'm just coming in. Oh, okay. Okay, yes, sir. Yes. So very interesting. I know I'm getting I think the Oscar music's going to start playing here real quick, but I'll try to speak really quick about it. There was an initiative called Built for Zero, where the idea was for our community to get to functional zero, meaning there was less people coming into our homeless system than leaving. We put a year behind this. Everybody at Hospitality House, a very integral part of it. We were down to 3 homeless veterans. Caveat to that. 3 homeless veterans, I think we're down to 2. Unfortunately, we don't see everything comes through what's called our coordinated entry system. People actually have to call and report this. I work very closely with the VA, with the VSFF, and the VOA, and they identified there's definitely more people out there, but our veteran population, which we love and we support, it's very difficult because a lot of folks are very self-sufficient, don't want the help, and are very uninclined to reach out. Are they out there? Yes. I can throw stats at you all day. I'm going to give you honest stats. There are some out there. How many? I don't have an exact number, but it's a lot less than it was a year ago. I can tell you that much.
I just wanted to thank you guys so much. And I'll give this mic back to Joe, but we really appreciate your time. We appreciate all your support and your investment in us. And it really takes a village, you know, it takes a village to address these situations, these social issues. And so we really appreciate each and every one of you, especially you.
Thank you so much for your time and having us tonight.